Hey everybody, today we're going to speak about the normal forehand and backhand with topspin. Today we're going to discuss about how you are able to play that topspin in order to give a low contact point to the net player. And I think it's very important to talk about topspin and to talk about the grip of the racket, because I feel like when somebody starts playing and he's from tennis, that sometimes they play in a very deep grip, and that's not the way. So we're going to talk about a few mistakes of playing topspin, and we're going to show you how you can play and when you have to play that topspin ball in order to keep a low contact point for the net player, so you will be perfectly fine at the back. And we're going to start right now. Vamos! Welcome to Padel Tips. Today we're also going to show you how you can improve your topspin in the most easiest way possible, so you can learn topspin in 1 minute. The question of this video: do you play with topspin or do you play flat from defense? Let me know below. Okay, so let's speak about reading the ball. So you can only play with topspin if the ball is in front of you and doesn't bounce against the back wall or side wall. I highly recommend to play flat or slice from the back wall and never play topspin from the back wall. It's very complicated. So when do you play the topspin ball? You play topspin when you have time. So when the incoming ball is slow or slightly higher, then you can play topspin. It's perfectly fine to play topspin. When you play topspin, we have another video for that, if you play slice or spin. So you can watch that video if you want to know more about when to play topspin. But this is specifically about also how to play topspin and how the topspin shot is executed, the technique of the shot. And reading the ball is an important factor, because if the incoming ball is slow, you can do everything with the ball. Make sure to play cross courts or through the middle and never down the line. Hatsiki day! If you speak about the technique of the forehand, I highly recommend to play every single shot you play in Padel in the continental grip. The continental grip is, I normally say it with, you have this V here, and this could be on this side. That's an option. You could say the pink mouse, that's this, should be positioned on the top. Yeah? I don't know if you can see it correctly, but it's on the top. Some players, when they are from tennis, they have a grip where they're positioned here or there or there or there or there. And that's very complicated, because you're not really making a lot of contact with the racket. So when you want to play topspin, you want to make sure, and this is something maybe also for the rackets, you want to make sure that you have a softer racket, not too hard. Then you have more contact with the ball. It helps to have a rough racket with sandpaper or with the 3D surface, and it really works, because I test rackets every single Friday. But continental grip, you can, if you want, hold the racket slightly lower. So you see in my hand I have more space here, then my wrist can move around easier. If you hold the racket high, your wrist is kind of locked. The wrist is, I think, maybe the most important thing that we have to discuss today, because the wrist, if you use the wrist, it can be an amazing shot. But the wrist is not easy to use. The lower your playing level, the more you should lock your wrist. Yeah, so the better you become, the more you can use your wrist. The wrist is something that is very difficult to time correctly. So I highly recommend that if your timing is not super duper, then to play with a firm wrist. If you become better, you can play more loose with a relaxed grip. This is also for the backhand. So with the backhand, you want to have the same continental grip. Remember, when you are at the back and you're going to play a ball that is before the white line and you're in defense, your opponent is in front of you. You don't have any time to switch grips. You can only switch grips when you have a lot of time. So if the ball is super slow, you can change grips a little bit, but If you're playing in continental, the swing is easier to have a bigger contact point and more of a follow through, and a hitting zone, something that we're also going to discuss today. A hitting zone is very important, and that's easier in the continental grip, in my opinion. If you're playing in a deeper grip, then you make less contact with the ball, you play too much spin, and that's not really the point. I think you need to have some speed and some spin. Some players play super slow, and then the net player does have a lot of time to respond. If you play with topspin, the ball comes on the feet of the opponent, and then they need to lift up the ball, and with spin you can also accelerate. I really feel that Padel is changing a lot. So Padel is becoming faster and faster and faster. So if you want to become better and if you want to go with the curve, I highly recommend to improve your topspin, if it's on the forehand or the backhand. And especially when you're playing on the left, I highly recommend to improve your backhand short cross to defense and your forehand short cross to defense if you're playing on the right. If you are left-handed and you play on the right, I also highly recommend to play with your backhand topspin short cross to defense. It's a very, very good shot. And Padel is really going to be that aggressive. So topspin also gives you the ability to really accelerate. Because if you play flat, you cannot play a specific speed. You can accelerate a lot with topspin. I also want to recommend, with these videos there is a lot of technical information, so I recommend to take 1 or 2 tips maximum at the time. And if you do that, you move to the next level, you watch this video again and you get another tip from that. But if you're going to put everything into play at once, you're going to get really confused. So that's why I'm really careful with these technical videos, because I feel like some people, they take too many tips all at once and then it becomes very difficult. So pick one and improve that specific tip and then get to the next one. I always recommend beginners to play absolutely flat because that's easier. When I have the first few lessons with people, I always recommend flat, or I let them play in their neutral way of playing. So if they play with spin, I say, okay, it's fine. If they play with slice, I say, okay, it's fine. First, you have to start to learn the game, the tactics, and then we move to your technique. So remember, tactics are more important than technique. So positioning, tactics, everything is more important than technique. Technique is not really important, but now it could be that you can improve your tactics by improving your technique. Because if you can play short cross to defense, you have an extra weapon in your tactical arsenal. Okay, so when you're playing the forehand and the backhand, the ball's not coming off the wall. So then prepare your racket very early. So when the ball is coming, prepare the racket before the ball bounced on your side of the court. If you have a late preparation, topspin is very complicated. So when you know the ball is coming, prepare the racket and pause the racket. And with topspin, pause the racket slightly lower than the ball. If your preparation is higher than the ball or the same height, it is not possible to play topspin. If you prepare higher than the ball, it's always going to be slice. If you prepare the same height as the ball, it's going to be flat. If you prepare lower than the ball, you can play with topspin. If you come from tennis, don't drop the racket like too much. So normally with the backhand, you can drop and you play up. That's too complicated with Padel. I recommend to drop it slightly, and then the topspin move is going to be way more horizontal than you know from tennis. So be very careful with the elbow. The elbow should be low when you prepare and then you go up. It's never like the circle you make with tennis. It's the elbow goes down and you play in a very horizontal way, and if you get better you can also use your wrist. Yep. So in order to play a good topspin forehand or backhand, make the swing shorter. Shorter backswing, follow through. If you're coming from here, it's super hard to time a correct forehand or backhand. It's impossible. Also about the end swing, so the termination of the swing is always going into the direction you want to play with. So if you play topspin, it could be your termination is higher than when you're playing flat. Yeah, so the swing is going to be more vertical, slightly more. Yeah, Not like in tennis that you're rough on the low and you end here, because you want to go more horizontal. We will show you in a second. For the follow through, this is one of the most important things. You can calculate the number of blocks you swing through. When you play a lot of topspin, you might hit the ball on the fence and you go up immediately. Yeah? If you want to follow through, you have more blocks of fence. That's the main goal. Like when you hit the fence flat. This is the beginner way of swinging the racket. Not like there, not like here. It's super straight. Yeah. We want to go slightly more towards this, hitting the ball with the top of the racket first. Yeah. So it's slightly closed. You see? So this is going to be my contact point. Yeah. I'm swinging from lower than the bar towards here. Yeah. And then I'm going to have as much possible blocks forward. And then I will end there. So I hit forward, 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 and then there. A lot of players, they go here or there, especially with the backhand. They tend to hit here. So if I want to hit the ball, let's say there, my backhand is lower than the bar, and from there I swing and end there. That's the termination of the ball. And you want to make that very long. Follow the ball with the racket, and if you look in ultra slow motion, you could see that you're hitting the ball longer if you calculate the number of fence blocks. So the fence blocks are the key to success for your forehand or backhand. If you want to play topspin backhand, you're going to push down with your left hand. So you have two hands on the grip, because then you can hold it lower. And then from there, you can play up. So let's say you hit one block, you have a hitting zone of 1. And if you hit 8 blocks, you have a hitting zone of 8. And 8 is better than 1. It's like when Roger Federer he plays tennis, he just hits the ball, boom, and then he goes away. And because we are not really his level, we have to follow through longer. Yeah, because that makes it way easier. Now, the straight stance. This is possible, open stance, but it's easier to step in and hit. That's it. Because that will make my follow through longer. If I am here, it might be that I'm going too much up or too much to the side. One of my favorite drills for the topspin forehand or backhand you choose. I'm going to drop the ball very close to the net, and Sasha has to lift up the ball. It's very important, if you want to practice this, that you have a target. Now it's the orange tube, that the ball has to bounce before the orange tube, and she has to hit the ball. You cannot do like this and it's fine. So you have to follow through. Faster, faster. Juist, nice. Exactamente. Yes, exactly. So now, Sas, you brushed way more. So now, because she's very close to the net, a very close position to the net, she has to lift up the ball straight away. And that's why she's forced to play with topspin. There is one other, what you can do is, I hold the tube, and she has to, I'm going to lower the tube, so she's forced to come from low to high. Exactly. Slowly. Yes. Exactly, that's the one. So now she's forced to do that. A lot of players, they tend to prepare like this. And then it's gone because the racket is too high. So if that happens, you can also do this drill to keep the racket low, because now the only thing they can do is come from underneath the tube. You can also, if Sasha is preparing high like this, yeah, I say, okay, Sas, yeah, okay, hit the ball. And she plays topspin, as easy as that, yeah? Almost. The racket should close a little bit. So when you're preparing the racket, prepare your racket early, slowly, pause, and then close the racket slightly in the preparation, because that will make the ball go with topspin. Otherwise it's not possible. So close the racket when you prepare. This is also the reason why you cannot play topspin from the back wall. You can, but it's more complicated because the ball's coming from high and your racket is closed. So then the ball will come on the other side, the wrong side of the racket. So the goal is to build up the point, not to score the forehand or the backhand. It's not possible. You don't want to. Yeah, you want to win the net position, and you want to do this to win the net position, because if you play slow on the feet, you get an easy ball, and that ball you can lob, and then you win the net, and then you win the match. As easy as that. So especially when you're a coach or when you want to learn topspin, you have to learn to play soft first with spin, because then you feel that you're hitting spin. That's way better. Thank you all for watching. If you want to request any video about Padel, let me know below and I will make a video for you. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video. Hasta luego, ciao, adios.